Going live. All right, so I'm Cadet Faught from the Wabash Battalion, giving a briefing today on Operation Wabash Forge. As the third platoon leader from the engineering company. So just starting off, audience, take out a pen and paper and hold all questions until the end as I go through this operation in detail, and then you can ask questions at the end. So, starting off with the task organization. So for this, being a platoon-sized operation for third platoon, platoons will be at full strength with 3 9-soldier rifle squads within platoon, 9-soldier weapons squad, typically the fourth squad, and it would also consist of a 4-soldier platoon headquarters. That would consist of myself, the PSG, the RTO, and the platoon medic. As you can see here with this course of action sketch, like my terrain model here for the third platoon operation part of Wabash Forge. The AO is Mushroom Hill to show that visually I took some bordering like an orange outline of that. For the AO itself, it's bounded here in the north. This appeared to be Prince Creek to the north, and then on the east side you have Lincoln Road, which is this road that runs kind of out this way towards the south, with the rest of the map indicating that. On the south, this is what appeared to be Mud Creek, and the 53 Northing running this way on the grid lines, with the rest of the map accompanying this operation. So then to the west, you have the Brown County line that makes up the west line. So that makes up the overall AO of Mushroom Hill. So a little bit of background. Mushroom Hill is a very important strategic point for the Wabash Battalion operations and the Greater 7th Brigade. Eventually, these higher up operations will go to try to acquire objective Atterbury. This, for our platoon and for our engineering company, this is a big stepping stone to getting to objective Atterbury, to acquiring that objective. So that's really the area that we're focusing on. The area of interest I highlighted with yellow here. So in this yellow bordering is your area of interest. This area of interest is the command posts of the SAPA forces. And then you can see here I made that the objective because that is the primary objective for 3rd Platoon and the Greater Engineering Company, is to take this command post, because eventually we want to take this entire area of operation of Mushroom Hill so we can gain a strategic advantage from there. That is the goal in mind. And then as you can see there, the enemies have mortaring and indirect artillery fire in their capabilities. Yeah, so that's the greater AO and then the area of operation that they're operating in for this. So for the terrain and weather, for the terrain, the AO provides visibility of about 75 to 100 meters. That's like your line of sight for that. There's dense vegetation throughout the AO that can limit observation. So we have this. Right here, this changing in elevation, indicating hills and kind of steep inclines that would be not so beneficial for our movement. But with that elevation is also a lot of dense vegetation that can limit visibility. Besides that, the avenues of approach include Mushroom Hill Trail right here. Wilder Road, what I can make out from the map, was here. You have the rest of the map, it kind of extends off to the east with the, based off this north arrow. But it's Wilder Road is another avenue of approach into this AO. Besides that, you have Tank Trail, which I could make out as a trail towards the south. And then Wilder Road is actually this road. Wilder Road that extends out here that we were referencing earlier. Those are some avenues of approach. As you can see, there's streams here and then some wetland area. That can be very that can be a difficult obstacle for our platoon as we move through. So we kind of want to avoid this area. That's a part of the weather aspect, of course. Moving on from there, for the key terrain, Mushroom Hill dominates the surrounding terrain. So we want, obviously, when you're going into an operation, you want to have the most strategic key terrain to your advantage. It's part along the lines of the strategy of having 3-to-1, or those advantages on the battlefield are key. In this case, for the key terrain, Mushroom Hill dominates those surrounding areas. So we want to do our best to acquire that for future operations. So that's part of that. Obstacles, like I was talking about earlier, they have these streams and wetlands throughout the AO become impassable, especially we have the issue, it's scheduled for 30 April 2020. During that day and the nighttime going into the morning of 30 April, there's 70% chance of precipitation and rain. So we really want to avoid that area. In terms of cover and concealment, there are rolling hills and numerous draws and spurs that provide cover for our operations. So we can balance on that. And then there's like that dense vegetation can be good concealment. Obviously not necessarily cover from fire, but good concealment as we make our move up into Mushroom Hill. So the weather aspect, as I was referencing earlier, we shouldn't have that much of a problem. A sunrise at about 07, sunset at 2000-ish. Like I was referencing earlier, we have that chance of precipitation during the day. So primarily with this operation, we're going to want to be attacking early morning. So those are like the primary weather effects. So in terms of enemy forces, what we're looking at is with night illumination is only at 53%. So in terms of crafting this operation, it wouldn't be very strategically advantageous to attack at night to catch them off guard because there's Sapper patrols all over the place. The Sapper patrols are kind of within this vicinity of the Mushroom Hill within the AO. So we want to take this command post, but obviously if we don't have the illumination at night, we can't really do that. So the ultimate goal for that would be then is we would use the morning hours, trying to avoid that precipitation and that wetland that's just going to make it difficult for us to fight the uphill battle to take the hill. So we're gonna focus our attack and our forces in the morning, that part of the timeline. So enemy composition overall, they have medium and light machine guns and RPGs within this area. That's been reported from our allied surveillance. They have Sapper forces, as I was referencing earlier, conducting squad patrols across Mushroom Hill. So that is assumed to be within this area and along the trails, which are, of course, linear danger areas. This yellow part here that is part of the map kind of indicates the movement of the company, of engineering company, up into here. My plan and my recommendation for 3rd Platoon and the rest of engineering company is to use this phase line and break off from there. We'll get more into that later, but that's just kind of an accompanying graphic that caught my eye, and I thought I'd explain that right up front. But Sapper forces, it's been reported that Sapper forces, the enemy forces, do not have access to Class 4 materials. They are expected to establish a perimeter defense if they expect to be attacked. So, they really want to keep this hill. Obviously, it's a very important piece for them. So the platoon headquarters within this command post, this HQ, has retained 1 or 2 squads to defend their command posts, and mortar fire is expected, hence the depiction of the mortars and the indirect fire there. The most likely course of action is that for the enemy is that the squads will attempt to disrupt our friendly operations. The Sapper squads do not attempt to decisively engage. They break contact once they have lost the element of surprise. So really, the enemy is not, they have the hill, but their tactics are not super aggressive. That's based off of our intel and our experience with the SAPA forces. A dangerous course of action is coordinated complex attack of direct and indirect fires utilizing those mortars by one or two or more squads, against the Wabash Battalion forces and the engineering company as a whole, since the company is going to primarily take care of this operation. So on the enemy in situation, on to friendly forces. So the higher headquarters and the mission command, mission and intent. So 2 levels up from our 3rd platoon, the Wabash Battalion. Their mission is to secure objective Atterbury, kind of what I referenced earlier, no later than the 29th of no longer than 29th at 2300 April 2020. Enable a forward passage of lines of Hoosier and Boilermaker battalions to get decisive brigade operation and decisive advantages. So that is the mission. The commander's intent is to destroy any enemy and deny enemy access to objective Atterbury no later to objective Atterbury in order to facilitate the 7th Brigade isolation in the city of Indianapolis. Going on from there. So that is the primary of the 2 levels up. So for the higher headquarters, so above us is the engineering company. So primarily with that, the engineering company is going to clear this this AO of Mushroom Hill no later than 1900 of April of 2020. That's to deny SAPA forces of this AO so we can contain that strategic advantage and take the hill. The commander's intent from the company level is to enable the Wabash Battalion to objective Atterbury later on, dominating the key terrain and giving observation for the other areas and aspects of those areas. So the key task for the company is to conduct this tactical road march is the plan to Alpha Alpha Grizzly. This off to the side is what I was referencing earlier a little bit. This phase line red to break off as a company or purposely through this terrain is that that can be like an alternative course of action. You know, obviously we don't know what we're going to encounter on the road. It's very dangerous to do a road march in an enemy environment, especially along the edge of an area of operation of the enemy that we know going into this operation. So this is an alternative plan with the phase line red to indicate once we hit this phase line, kind of about 500 meters off of this left turn here going west, we know we're going to hit that about 500 meters down. Based off our pace, we can break off into the terrain. We have higher elevation here going down. We might encounter some wetlands. So, you know, if worse comes to worse, we're going to have to bite the bullet here in a raining environment to go through that wetland area. And then eventually we would move on to phase line black, which would be an indicator as we go up higher elevation back towards the hill. We will also know we get close to this trail here. Rally point 1, that rally point is an indicator of if we take contact. Say we take contact along this roadway, doing the road march, we can break off into here. We knew say we pass that phase line, we break off into here. We have a rally point primarily indicated in a lower elevation, which, you know, in a valley is not necessarily advantageous, but it's better than having no plan at all, obviously. So that's rally point 1. This is a phase line black, considering this side of the operation, the alternative path. Moving forward towards the hill. So that is part of the strategic operation moving forward. The mission of 3rd Platoon of Engineering Company assists 1st and 2nd Platoons of the Engineering Company in an attack on the AO Mushroom Hill, this objective no later than 30:09 April 2020. That time indicates the time that we will take the objective, move through this whole thing, and we will, of course, we will set up a patrol base, we will conduct aid and litter, EPWs on actions on. More on that later. But that is the mission. I'll reiterate that one more time. 3rd Platoon of Engineering Company will assist 1st and 2nd Platoon of Engineering Company in an attack on Mushroom Hill to be completed no later than 30:09 April 2020 in order to seize the area for future operations by the Wabash Battalion to capture Objective Atterbury, which I have emphasized earlier, the importance of that for the Wabash Battalion. So that is moving on from there to the execution and the commander's intent, moving on from the mission to the execution, the commander's intent. The purpose of this operation is to assist the engineering company. We're using our platoon, we're assisting the greater good of the company to capture the area of operation Mushroom Hill to prevent SAPA forces from controlling this key terrain, controlling the area, and create observation posts for Objective Atterbury. So moving on there to the concept of operations, very general here. 3rd Platoon conducts a road march along with the rest of the engineering company. So this is the tactical road march, that is the overall guidance from the commander to use this road march. So that it will be the primary avenue of approach. This here, as I referenced earlier, is more of a recommendation as an alternative plan of approach. You never know what you can encounter here along Tank Trail and the rest of the roadway to indicate there. So once we get to Alpha Alpha Grizzly, which is the AA here shown, that is at Echo Juliet 789er 65449er is the grid coordinate for Alpha Alpha Grizzly. So after setup of the patrol base, 3rd Platoon will prepare for attack operations on the SAPA command post, the objective, and then 3rd Platoon will be an assaulting element with 1st Platoon being a supporting element. So here I'll zoom in a little bit here that's a little bit too much, but zooming in here, so this is obviously what we're gonna be focused on. So 3rd Platoon will be right here, and then we as indicated with the attacking element, 3rd Platoon will be the attacking element. It will attack with fire through this area, through the objective. The way it's depicted could be some risk of friendly fire just by the angling here. Obviously, you wouldn't want to just run through your friendlies. You would want to kind of assault through this way. The plan with this would be 1st Platoon as the supporting element. The plan here, the way I would like to execute, is to have the weapons squad from 1st and 3rd Platoon make up this supporting element. So it won't really be a platoon size element. It'll be made up of weapons squad, since weapons squad has the most casualty causing firearms of either platoon. So that would be our supporting element to support through in this attack, firing forward. And then you would have the assaulting element making up, that would be composed of the squads from 1st and 3rd Platoon that would assault through here, since we have weapon squad there. What it would be a good way to do this is, once set up in the Alpha Alpha Grizzly, is we set up patrol bases. Obviously, that's the command guidance, as well as within 3rd Platoon. And then once we have that set up, then we can split off our weapon squads into that supporting element platoon, quote unquote, more of a section, but for this case, a platoon. And then this platoon, 3rd Platoon, will be made up of the rest of the soldiers that aren't weapon squad. So primarily, it'd be a larger attacking through element, but we have the large fire coming through there. This platoon right here is second platoon. That platoon is going to be a security element. This is to ensure that we don't have any problems, like we said earlier, with the surrounding SAPA patrol squads that are patrolling around in this area over here, right around, kind of encompassing Mushroom Hill. We're trying to take this objective and not get someone ambushing us from the back or from the rear, obviously. Rally point 2 is a rally point right here. The primary purpose of this rally point is to say this goes awry, or say second platoon gets in some sort of ambush with multiple squads of SAPA forces. This rally point right here will be the known rally point, approximately 250 meters southwest, southeast of Alpha Alpha Grizzly, kind of off of this roadway. That will be a primary point that second platoon, or maybe if everything goes awry, RP2 will be the primary rally point that we kind of rally back together and figure out operations moving forward from there. This supporting element, the weapon squads, primarily will not want to be lined up on the roadway. This is kind of one of those instances where if this roadway is even elevation, I would like to set them up kind of behind this roadway, kind of more towards the Alpha Alpha of Grizzly. I just don't want to run the risk of crossing this LDA and then getting caught too close and mortar fire occurring. Another thing that we'll have on our side during this operation is the help of indirect fire and artillery mortar fire on our side. So that is indicated by this blue diamond right here that I also indicated in the legend that if I zoomed out, I'll show you the legend eventually. But that diamond will indicate the mortar, that represents where we'll place our mortar fire that we'll use to signal our attack on this objective, because we want to take out this mortar fire. We want to take them out by surprise. Once we set up this Alpha Alpha, we have security set up right here. We have mortar fire right there that we can call in. We have the advantage. We have multiple platoons and then the supporting element right there. They have 2 squad size forces on this objective, so we will use our fire to our advantage. Once that operation, so that is the concept of operation overall. So I kind of hit on some movement and maneuvers as I was explaining there. A little bit of stuff that I will continue on explaining. Weapon status for the movement here for that scheme of movement maneuver is going to be amber. That's going to be the primary one we take, like I've referenced to getting to Alpha Alpha Grizzly. So once we have that, third platoon will arrive, prepare for the attack operation, and then this operation is set to begin no later than 30/08 April 2020. And then it has more explanation in the op order, the formal op order of how I want to organize the weapon squads into one as a supporting, and then obviously the assaulting element. So once that assault's through, once we have the assaulting through, and then the supporting fire, once this objective is formally taken, we will do actions on the objective, as we have taught multiple times throughout our preparation for operations like these and operations we've done before. Conduct actions on. We're going to do EPW, enemy prisoners of war, and then aid and litter. EPW first, then aid and litter. For any casualties we may have on the objective or in the vicinity of the objective. So actions on, we will have a casualty collection point that I have neglected to highlight in this presentation, but that casualty collection point will most likely be off of the objective, a little bit down this hill in elevation, close enough to us that we can get there, but far enough away that it will be indicated kind of right on this end of the line, if I can add that in. So that would be a casualty collection point for our EPW's casualties that we've taken. Then we're going to radio up to higher, which would be our engineering company. We can radio up to the company commander and tell them, that we have taken the AO of Mushroom Hill and give a back brief to him, back to the commander, and yeah, so that's the overall maneuvers. Once that has happened, and once we have the CCP, we've done checks with team leaders. We've done our equipment checks, lace reports, etc. We've successfully secured this. We also want to have communication radio, obviously, into second platoon, indicating that we have taken this objective. And once we have taken this, then we have that security element kind of going around here. So we want to radio in, we've taken it, so that the security element obviously knows that we have taken the objective. So moving on from there, we have our scheme of fire. So within the company, within our platoon, the company as a whole, but within our platoon as well, we have mortars that we talked about. We have the 60mm mortars that will be moving with us to Alpha Alpha Grizzly that will also be used right here, the 60mm mortars, as part of our indirect fire scheme. Then we have the priorities of fire is going to be within our platoon as well. So as being a key attacking platoon, we'll have that mortar. So moving on from schemes of fire. So moving on from that, so we have coordinating instructions. The time when the op board becomes effective is when you receive it. So this briefing and the op board, obviously, once you received it, we're good to go. So a general timeline for this operation is the 3rd Platoon Patrol Base will be occupied no later than 28 at 2100 of April. Then fragos will be issued of anything we've seen. Once we get to Alpha Alpha Grizzly, then we set up patrol base, obviously, and then we have a stand 2. This is kind of company-wide, but a stand 2 at 2905. And then moving on from there, we'll conduct PCIs at 3006, April 2020. 3rd Platoon PCIs, as well as the other platoons, will conduct PCIs. So that will be the primary idea there. Then moving on from PCIs, we'll step off. As I said earlier, I want to start this by 08, but we will step off at 0750 on 30 April 2020. So obviously that will be the timeline there. Reporting requirements for up to higher that I referenced earlier. We want to do those lace reports after actions on objective, and then we want to do a salute report back up to higher, reporting back to the company that we have secured the objective for Mushroom Hill. The 9-line medevac is obviously the standard in the Army, and it's going to be the standard we're going to use for friendly casualties in the case of aid and litter. Yeah. So in terms of sustainment, moving on from there, sustainment, the resupply points, Mushroom Hill Trail. I'll zoom out here so we can get a little bit more of a grander scheme. Mushroom Trail, that's going to be the main supply route throughout the entire AO that we have here. It's accessible by vehicle and foot in both directions, but it has a limited resupply stock of class 1, 3, and 5. Then moving on with the rest of sustainment, you'll have your general platoon basic loads. That'll be made up of 240 MRE, so 6 per soldier within your 40-man platoon. Got 4 quarts of water per soldier, Spedco, weapons cleaning kit, etc. in class 2, your typical stuff. Class 5, smoke grenades that would help in indication for any firing typically, or 9-line medevac possibly, but in this case, like I was referencing earlier, we're going to do the mortar fire. But that's going to be part of your class 5. What's on you? You have your M4s, M249s, M240 Bravos as typical. So moving on from there, replacements of personnel will be available 72 hours after request as a standard operating procedure of our platoon and greater company, as well as that enemy prisoners of war are handled in accordance with the 5 S's: search, silence, safeguard, segregate, and speed to the rear, as referenced in training. And they are to be transferred at the earliest opportunity to company headquarters for transfer to the brigade detainee holding area. Air medevac coordinated with the company HQ, as typical. Moving on to some command and signal. So we have the typical, some of the typical guidelines for command and signal. What we'll be running with primarily for a running password is hammer. Things you want to worry about. The password number combination will be 7 for this operation. And then the general company command posts for relaying back up to higher headquarters originally is going to be Echo Juliet 789er 6 Fife 449er. That's my basic run through this. Are there any questions for the general operation? I will take it this time. And after questions, obviously, thank you for your time, and we'll conduct this operation to the best of our ability and bring home Mushroom Hill is the goal. Thank you.